Hey y'all, welcome back to part 2 of simple cleaning methods on thrift store finds. My name's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel. I am a small reseller on eBay, Niknax, as well as on Whatnot. Every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on Whatnot, I go live and do a vintage live sale. I would love to see you there. Come join me. A link for that will be in the description. If you haven't checked out my eBay and Niknax stores yet either, please go do so. The links for those are also in the description. Let's get to the rest of the video. Hello, hello. It is a new day. Today, we have a sale we need to wrap up real quick. And then I was going to get back to cleaning up those pieces we were doing last night. The piece that sold today is a cool mid-century piece that I now just need to locate right here. So this one, I can't remember off the top of my head if this was a McCoy or a Hager or what. It's just impressed with USA on the bottom. And it's a kind of glossy matte, and you can almost see on the edges, maybe the light might not show you very good, but on the edges it kind of fades to kind of a gray, foresty green sort of color. So it makes me think, you know, and when you look at the base and stuff, maybe you can see kind of it's lighter. It makes me think that it's not entirely like a black glaze. I think it's probably more of a black dark green, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna get this wrapped up and then we're gonna get back to it. All right, we got it all packaged up, ready to go. I'm gonna run it up to the post office real quick and then we will get back to doing a quick clean on some of these figurines and things I found at the thrift store the other day. Okay, so as I think I said a little bit ago, it is in fact the next day. Yay. And we are going to look over this guy. He really doesn't need a whole lot of cleanup. He's one I brought up from downstairs just to kind of show you again on the bottom and stuff. Now his sticker's missing. I'm not positive who made him. He again looks like a robin to me, but we're gonna dust him up, clean him up just a little bit. He really again doesn't need a whole lot. I like them to look as pretty and presentable in the photographs for their listing online, you know, and I can tell looking at the base, I don't know if you can so much on the camera, but I can tell looking at the base that he's, I don't want to say dirty, but you can see he's not perfectly white either, as you would perhaps expect. So again, with our distilled water and just a tad bit, like a drop or two of mild dish soap. I'm using this time Dawn dish soap, but typically I would recommend using Castile soap. I also use distilled water. Allegedly, it should have no added minerals or anything like that that in theory would affect the piece. So that's why I prefer to use that. You're not wanting to use a whole lot of water. You just want bristles on a soft toothbrush. You just want it damp, just ever so slightly. And the reason I still go over him is because there's lots of little indentions and things like that dirt gets trapped in, dust gets trapped in. And I mean, I'd rather, if I can, make it into a piece that, you know, looks the way he did when he would have first come out of the box. Again, as I said with the last one, I mean, this is pretty much as in depth as I typically will go on pieces, especially ones that I intend to sell. I strongly recommend getting some practice in on broken pieces. That is always perfect. That's part of the reason I don't always just throw away a broken piece. Whether it is repairing it in some way or even kind of learning different ways to clean it up without, you know, messing up the paint, because it's a throwaway piece anyway, right? So it's a perfect learning piece to kind of, the refrigerator kicked on, to kind of get a feel for what things work, what things don't, what things damage more than help, you know, all that kind of stuff. But this guy, he's overall in pretty darn good shape. He really doesn't need a whole lot. I think I had done a little bit on him in the past, and that's probably why he's not too bad. So I'm gonna dampen just a soft old cloth. And again, it's lightly damp, guys. Like, you're not gonna wring water out of it, okay? And around the base, I just like to clean. That's probably a speck from the paint, from him being painted. So I don't know if you guys can see, there's a tiny speck on him right there that is not coming off, and that's okay. Looking at it, I think it's probably more to do with the brown paint from painting him. You always want to be careful kind of working around the, I don't know what you call this, but like this key back here, the on-off switch for him. And so the reason I'm doing these videos, or this video, is not because most of you out there maybe don't know this, but there's probably some folks out there that are newer and may not know. And I think we all also are aware of the fact that you can go on Pinterest, YouTube, Google, whatever, and find 1,000,000,001 different ways in order to do this properly, do this safely, try this method, whatever, right? And I'm not saying that any of those don't work. I don't know. I'm not a professional restoration person. So I will typically do my best to clean an object up as such, like what I'm showing here, by just removing the dirt, okay? And then selling them as is. Now, I did check to see if I had a short little screw, and these screws are Phillips head screws. They're maybe a 1/4 inch long, and they're the flat end screw, not ones intended for like drilling into a wall. They're intended for things like this, okay? So I don't have a flat ended one. I'm going to leave that as is. If I had one, I would put one in, and then I would disclose that in the listing. Regardless, I'm going to enclose in the listing that it is missing a screw. It is, however, secure on here, you know. It looks like on this side there's a little evidence of like a bit of adhesive or something. Oh yeah, and I did say I'd show you that glows. So you see it's actually like brown color, right? There's a good spot. See how that lights up differently right there on the ceramic? That's glue. And while we're showing that, come here, birdie. So I'm not going to be trying to sell this piece unless somebody else out there desperately wants it, but I love it. I think it's adorable. He sadly got knocked over and broken, but basically he was a tiny cup, and his little parrot sat, you know, sort of as so on here. They're not worth a ton of money. They're just these tiny, almost more like child-sized tea cup things. And then you put a light on it, and now it highlights. And same thing on the interior. See how it highlights? My point in showing you this is because a black light comes in handy for a lot more than simply seeing if something glows, okay? It helps you to find damage and or repairs on pieces. I think I spent maybe $8 to $10 on this on Amazon. It works just fine for what I need it for. I recommend having one just for that purpose. Okay, and this piece is roughly about 4 1/4 in diameter. Stands about 6 3/4 inches tall. 12.6, so we'll say 13 ounces. Let's see what he does. Okay, so birdie works. Let's go ahead and start on our next piece that I showed you guys in a previous video. This is a Homeco Denim Days 1985, number 1504, crafted in Taiwan. She is a bisque porcelain. She's a little dusty, but otherwise she looks in good condition. I can't find any damage to her thus far, but there's a good amount of dust and stuff, so let's clean her up and see. You'd be surprised sometimes how much even what appears to be thin films of dust can hide. So let's clean her up. Okay, so again, I start with a very soft bristle, just paintbrush, okay? I would recommend getting them in different sizes, like this size maybe, which is roughly an inch in width, and going smaller, maybe to help get in smaller crevices and stuff. If you don't have something smaller, try a Q-tip. I usually start at the top of the item and then work my way down. Try to anyway. Now, so some of the dirt on here is meant to be there. It is meant, it's painted on to look like dirt, because this is a young girl with her teddy bear, and she is sitting, you know, on the ground, and she's got a plant next to her. She's got her denims on, and she's a country girl. She's just a little rural gal. I do see that despite removing the dust, there may be a little bit of kind of residual just dirt and gunk that's been on there for just a little bit, and we'll get that off here in just a second. All right, so we're done with that part. So far, she's mostly dirt, dust free, already looking prettier. Before we move on to finishing cleaning her up, let's get some measurements on her. So she is right at about 3.5 inches long, 3 inches wide. Oh, I'd say right at about 4 inches tall. 6.8, so we'll put 7 ounces. We can proceed. Bring back over our little bowl of water here. Again, you don't need to soak the item. It's not good for it. You just want enough dampness on here to help get in those crevices and clear out any little bits that the simple just brushing away won't quite get. And again, you see like on the back of her britches there, like the darker areas, that's supposed to be there. So I can scrub away all day at that and I might win, but it's part of the piece. So you're not really trying to remove all that. Same thing on the dirt on the bottom behind her. It's meant to be there. It looks like dirt. Good job. They did a good job then. If it looks like dirt, they did their job. She's got a little armpit staining. That's all right. Rural girls tend to. Want to clean up her little flower here if we can. Wipe down her little feet and her teddy bear. We still have our slightly damp cloth. The trick is less is more. Less is always more. Again, we are not trying to restore, repair, rebuild. We are just trying to do very minimal, basic cleanup. There's gonna be items that you don't want to do basic cleanup on. Those are gonna be more of your like rustic type items, you know, your country, rustic, farmhouse, a lot of that kind of stuff. Porcelain figurines weren't really made with the intention of being covered in dirt and dust and whatnot, so they tend to look better when they're not. So I don't know, I hope that makes sense, because there's going to be some items you're going to want to do a little dusting on or clean up on, and then other items that are just, honestly, they are better left alone and are more valuable left alone. So I suppose that's why I'm trying to kind of explain maybe slight difference there. You know, like dust on her doesn't increase her value. Dirt on her doesn't increase her value. But if this was some old rustic farmhouse piece, it very well may. You know, sometimes it's like the missing enamel from old tins. Now, you can take those things to professional restoration folks and they can make them look brand new, but sometimes the appeal to those items is the fact that they look worn and used. There's a little paint missing, there's a little color or discoloration, or, you know, those kinds of things. But that's an individual by individual choice. If I had to guess off the top of my mind, she would sell for probably 12 to 18, somewhere in there, by herself. She's in great condition. I still find no chips, no cracks, no damage. I've looked her over, I've cleaned her up. Her teddy bear looks beautiful. She is a gorgeous blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl with a teddy bear and a plant, and she wants a new home. Okay, start with measurements. About 6 inches long. He is a good 4 inches wide, and you always want to account for not just the base, but things like their feet and stuff that could be sticking out past the base. So you want to account for that in the measurement for the width, okay? No matter what side, direction, whatever, account for it because it matters. They clear just slightly under 6.5, so we'll go with 6.5 for their height. 1 pound, 1.8 ounces, so we will say 1 pound and 2 ounces. Very good, young chaps. Come back this way. They're not bad either. They're just a little bit dusty. I really don't see much on them that needs to be cleaned up, other than whoever damaged it, you know, probably grandkid or somebody came over and whacked a ball at it or something, who knows. But they're otherwise in great shape and very little dust and stuff on them. So let's just start with the basics, right? We'll start at the top, dust off the cowboy's hat. And I think I mentioned last night, but in case I didn't. So one of the reasons I still went ahead and bought this was, well, one of the reasons was because despite the damage, okay. So I'm looking at it and looking at photos of this piece, the handle extended just enough behind the little boy where you can't see it front facing anyway. And so since they had it at $6.99, I got a little bit of a discount on just this piece, but then I also got a 30% off my total purchase. I don't know how, but I hadn't been there in 3 years. They said I had 30% off. I said, slap it on. So they did. So because of what I was able to get this at, let's just say $4 or $5, I'm going to overlook this damage because it doesn't affect the overall integrity of the piece. Does it still devalue it a little bit? You bet it does. But it's still a piece that can be sold likely for more than $4 or $5. Okay? Denim Days is collectible. And as you guys were seeing, if you watched my previous video after the thrift store and I was kind of talking about these guys, the Christmas ones, Denim Days Christmas, and then like the farmhouse style ones, at least right now on eBay, seem to be the ones that are most popular. There's those Halloween ones that it still blows my mind to think about that they just didn't seem to be selling for as much, because typically holiday stuff is where it's at, and certainly Christmas is, but I would expect the Halloween ones to do better than ones like this. All I know is they needed to get out of the thrift store before any other damage occurred to them. Okay, oddly enough, and I am still considering giving this as a giveaway on my upcoming Whatnot sale. I just haven't made up my mind because it's adorable and it's completely intact, no damage, and I had found a comp that it sold for $24 and I paid $2.99. Okay. It is in perfect condition. It is the World of Beatrix Potter, Frederick Warren, circa 2000. Okay. Made in China, but nonetheless, Beatrix Potter, and crazy adorable little lid to it. On this guy, he really doesn't need any cleanup. I was just going to dust him off, but let's measure him first. Yeah, about 2.5. Might almost be the find of the day, considering that we got him for $2.99 and he sells for at least, give or take, $25, right? So, but I'm still happy to do him as a giveaway. Roughly 3.5 tall. 5.5, so we'll put 6 ounces. I can't find any damage on it thus far. I'm gonna say this is more of a hydrostone material than it is just ceramic. I'm just going to kind of get in between these leaves here, get any dust out of there, but it honestly, I'm just not really seeing a whole lot. I will plan on doing a few more of these types of videos as time goes on, as the need arises, especially if it's something new to show you of, tricks that I've personally done or learned and know that work and will show you on camera to help give you that bit of confidence. Because it's like I said, everybody under the sun out there will have an opinion, and that's fine. It may work, it may not, I don't know. But I'll share with you what I do and hope it helps. So in my last video also, I was speaking about Whatnot and selling on Whatnot and just overall being discouraged by it. And, I want to reiterate, I just really enjoy the idea of the platform for Whatnot and selling on Whatnot. Not necessarily having to sell on Whatnot itself. I have applied to be a live seller on Niknax, and I'm curious if I get approved for that. I'm curious to see what the difference would be, if there would be any at all. I may just not be good at doing live sales. That's always a possibility. I go over in my mind all the different things. Like, does that person have a huge following? Do they do a sale every day? Do they just have overall better inventory? All of these things are possible, And so I guess at this point in time, I'm not quitting, but I am watching very closely as to how much longer it truly makes sense financially on a business end to continue doing it if it's not bringing any type of profit, right? So I thought I'd throw that out there. I also wanted to mention I had somebody comment on I think it was my last video, saying get out of the Goodwills and stuff, and they left a great message that I think everybody should maybe go back and read. It should be towards the top, but they're 100% correct. I do not at all disagree with that. Thrift stores in general, I know of none. It's not just a Goodwill problem. It's an all thrift store problem. They all now sort through their inventory. They sell it on eBay themselves. A lot of times when you see the goes to charity thing, that's what that is. It is what it is. It's part of business. It's part of the cutthroat thing. That's how it goes. it's just unfortunate because I'm not only somebody who shops at thrift stores to resell, I shop at thrift stores for everything. I have my entire life. And so for the prices to be close to retail, what you'd buy them brand new, but yet they're worn, they are damaged, or, you know, things like that. Come on now, you know, like I could care less. I don't have to go to thrift stores to get inventory. 99% of my inventory did not come from a thrift store. I have been going to thrift stores here recently, just more or less to kind of get out of the house, honestly, and to give a little different type of content to shake things up a bit than what my other videos have been. But I am with that commenter. I do not personally recommend thrift stores. Depends on your area. Some are better than others, but in my area, not only are they very far away, but they are overpriced. They sort through their stuff. They cherry pick. That's just the name of the game. It's not to say you can't find stuff. Remember those bookends, those Andrea by Sadiq bookends that I just found and sold? I paid $5 or $6 for the set, turned and flipped them for $110 or $120 or whatever. So it's not impossible. It's just, it's not. If that's going to be where you plan on finding your bread and butter items, good luck. I started out that way when I first started reselling, starting to build a little inventory in order to resell, right? I started out that way, and it took me no less than a month or two to very quickly realize this was not going to work. And it changed my opinion greatly on doing things like estate auctions. It really didn't have anything to do with the past couple years and the events of, you know, we all know. That's not why I actually started doing estate sale auctions. I started doing estate sale auctions because I realized that estate sale auctions were not cherry picking things. Things sold for what they sold for. They didn't really get to, for the most part, put much of a starting bid on it. You know, you have to start it low enough to have people even interested in trying for it, right? So, you know, a lot of times the auction houses I went through, they started at, you know, $1, $5, $10 starts. And I mean, they make good money, but that's how you can go in and you can get more box lots of, it'll be a lot of randoms. It's going to be a lot of damaged pieces. It's going to be a lot of worthless pieces, but you will also find a lot of freaking gems in it too. Junk drawer lots. I have always had good luck with those. I just have. Sometimes things slip by. When you're doing an estate sale and you're doing a house clean out, you don't have time to sit and sort every individual little item. And that's how things get missed. So, in closing out this video, I thought I would impart to you some random bit of knowledge from one reseller to another reseller or potential reseller. And, you know, just in my experience, auctions have worked better for sourcing for inventory. Word of mouth works really good. I've come across a few places where it was like elderly people or an elderly person that ran it still. And back in the day, it used to be a antique shop, knickknack shop, whatever. And it's more or less ran down in ran down little towns. They're not on Google. Okay, so you can't just look them up and find them. I don't even know the name of the store. I just know how to drive there. Okay, there is no cash register. It is dirty, I'll be honest, because they don't spend a lot of time there. It's not an open store in that sense, really. But those are the kind of places you want to look for. Get to know the people who do the auctions. Get to know the people that buy from the auctions. Network with people. I need to be better at doing this also. But the more you network with people, the more you will start to find resources for getting inventory, even outside of your standard auctions. It's getting tougher out there, you know, and everybody wants top of the line for, or at least what they believe to be top of the line for whatever they're selling. And sometimes they're right and they'll sit on it, and rightfully so. And sometimes they're not. And, but if the name of the game is to get your product to move, my best suggestion is to do everything you can to do just that. All right, guys, I think that's it for this video. I just wanted to make a short, hopefully short, video going over just some extremely basic cleanup things, because I find that especially when you first start selling, that can be the most daunting. You will hear from some people, don't touch it. You know, if you look at it, it will combust. It'll, you know, turn to ash or whatever. And, you know, yes, things are fragile. And yes, you of course don't want to cause any other damage. I promise you though, you will. It will happen. It does happen. And so that's why I do recommend getting pieces that are broken sometimes, you know, like in auction lots, for example, stuff like that. Don't just automatically throw them away. Utilize them to your strength, to your ability to learn how to properly clean certain items, certain materials and things like that. Same things go with fabrics and all that kind of stuff. On my end, I really don't do restoration on things. If there is any minor, very minor restoration that I do, I always note that. That is a key part. You always note it. Note any damage, note any restoration, anything. The thing is that some people will buy stuff and know that they'll either keep it the way it is or they will have it restored. And that's fine. Some people prefer it, you know, slightly damaged and stuff. Like I said, some people prefer to see that wear and tear and, you know, use on it. That's part of the history of it. So because you don't know who's going to buy it, I don't like going over the top. I do, however, like, when necessary, making things look presentable, you know, for like your photos and stuff. And I don't want somebody getting somebody's, you know, like kitchen grease jar with a bunch of grease still in it. Like, right? Come on. So there's a big difference between restoring, okay, and an easy, simple, delicate cleanup of something. And I just want to make those two distinctions very clear. I again want to thank every one of you who watches my videos, especially who watches to the end. I am very, very grateful for that. I want to thank everybody that goes to my eBay, my Niknax stores and looks around and comes to my whatnot sales. I have another one this coming Saturday on the 30th at 7 p.m. Central. There will be a link in this video description that you can go over and bookmark it. And if you're a new buyer on Whatnot, you can get a $15, I believe it is, credit for buying. You don't have to spend it with me. You can spend it anywhere on Whatnot. So if you're a new buyer to Whatnot, check that out. The link for that should also be in the video description. But I do deeply want to thank everybody who watches my videos and helps support me in any way. And it's very, very, very much appreciated. So I think that's it for this one, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.